This is an onomy podcast.
Hi, everyone.
Okay.
Welcome back to the pod. It's good to be here again. Good to be with you again. Today on the pod, we have one of my closest, longest friends. She's an actress, screenwriting coach at this point, and just a lovely human who's about to become a mother. It makes me want to cry. I love her. I've been friends with her for a long time. She played Missy Meany on Ned's Declassified. So we were part of the Ned's family together, and she's just stayed family. And I'm friends with her family. I love her husband. I sang at their wedding. I will love their child. This is one of my close, real peeps in my life. And I'm willing to share her with you. And I'm willing to share our connection with you. So enjoy. I hope you enjoy the conversation like I did. We talk about our time on Ned's. We talk about our familial love for each other. We talk about pivoting when life doesn't go where you think it's going to go. And she drops some nice nuggets about life and relationships and just moving through it and staying open and staying playful. It's a beautiful thing to have friends you've known for decades and to move through all the changes of life with and know that they're going to be there. And so Carlie is that for me, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. Thanks for being here, all you grown-uppers. All you growers still makes me laugh the most. All you growers, we're growing together. Enjoy this conversation with Carlie Casey. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Look, when you're feeling your best, life is awesome. You're in your flow. All is well. Life feels easy, but that is not always the case. Sometimes you are feeling stuck. You're feeling bogged down, and you don't know how to get through. And sometimes talking to a family member or a friend just isn't enough. That's where therapy can come in to help you. I personally love calling my therapist. I find it so helpful to have a neutral, third-party professional to talk through some things in my life. Someone who doesn't have a personal investment in my story or my success or anything like that. Someone who can just listen, help me find the truth of what I'm feeling, and help me get through to the other side. So if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option for you. It's convenient, it's flexible, it's affordable, and it's entirely online. So if you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can help get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/growdevon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/growdevon, DEVON. Let's make a podcast, shall we?
Let's make a baby podcast.
Everything's about you and your baby now, isn't it?
That's it.
Carlie Casey.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice
Tiny Tater Tot. When did I start calling you Tiny, by the way? Because you don't take offense, right?
I've surrendered to it.
Wait, that means you don't like it then.
I mean, listen, does any man want to be called tiny? The answer is no.
But
Carlie.
I feel but it's when I go to text you, it's comes up so naturally.
Yes, it's
and
why
then
I'm
I thought
not.
The other day, and I was like, why? Where?
Where do any nicknames come? They came out of the ether. I don't resist them. You've had many for me over the years.
And I was going through them in my head, but I was like, Tiny is always the one that comes up.
That's the one that's stuck.
But I think to be fair, when I met you, you were tiny.
So
I think it came up then. I think it was definitely but I mean, we were all tiny. So this wasn't like you weren't more tiny than anyone else, but I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, Tiny stuck.
Tiny stuck.
Carlie calls me Tiny. She's like, "What's up, Tiny? Tiny?
Hi, Tiny." But we also do poopy and
that's true.
Whatever.
Yeah, because that's just fun. How old were we when we met? 13? Was it 13?
I think I was trying to think about this. Go back in the
records.
I
know, in the old recesses.
I feel like I was 13 or 14, but I don't remember which.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Carlie Casey played Missy Meany on Ned's Declassified. And you came on second season.
Yep.
And you have remained one of my longest and closest friends.
It's true. It's really true. You are one of my closest. You're like my little comfort blanket human.
Yeah, we check in. We
all the life moments
all the
are
life
there.
moments,
Yep.
all the life changes.
Good, bad, indifferent.
Almost
We're riding
20
the wave.
years now.
Woof.
Yeah.
Woof. I love that for us, but also what?
Yeah, we started as
Nuggets.
little nuggets, little nugget
chicken
babes.
nuggets.
And now I'm semi an adult and you're more of an adult because like you've like taken steps to like be an adult. You know, you have like a husband
Sure.
and like you know, a
but
family
I don't feel that way though.
know.
I
I know,
still
me
feel kind of
either.
19-ish, you know,
Yeah,
with
me
more
too.
aches and pains. That's kind of like where I heard that in a movie once. They were like, someone was talking to an older person. They were like, and the older guy was like, no, you don't really get past 19 to some degree. There's always going to be that little part of you that is present. And
Yeah.
I feel that way very much.
That makes sense. My mom kind of says that. She's like, I don't feel old.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't
But which is
feel in my
great.
60s. She's like, I still feel like I'm in college.
Which I
She's like,
think
I
is
just
good.
look sometimes and I'm like, oh God, why do I look like this?
But I think feeling young is the whole point, right?
Yeah, I think you better keep that part of you alive. That's alive.
Or you're yeah,
And not
exactly.
slowly dying.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would hope. I'm pretty sure I'll stay youthful forever.
You do still have a little baby face, but you've got the beard and
Yeah.
all the stuff.
The beard helps people know that I'm not 18. But like on the Ned's pod, a lot of the comments are like, "Why does Ned look exactly the same, but like he's like strapped on a fake beard?"
What's like the youngest that you'll go out for now, though?
I feel like I don't know. I feel like 20, 19.
Okay.
I feel like I can still get maybe a 19, 20 audition.
Yep.
Not with the beard right now, though. I'd have to shave it off.
Yeah.
You know, I'm starting to get, I can actually audition for like 30, which is amazing.
It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting.
You're gonna enter like dad soon, like
Ooh,
young dad
can't.
stage.
I've auditioned for young
Have
dads.
you?
I just auditioned for a young dad. This is exciting. This is a whole new day. Whole new
is.
day that I'm not one of the little boys.
What's weird is even though I'm pregnant, the womanness of it, like thinking of auditioning for like a mom, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I'm too young. But I'm pregnant.
You're literally,
right now. I'm
yeah, you're literally about to be a
but
mom.
it's like, but again, the industry's so weird with time and age and all that stuff
Yeah.
that I'm like, it feels like I would be too young to audition. But I'm not. I'm 32.
Yeah.
Like, but again, I feel young.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. You got to keep yourself feeling young. So how was, before we talk about you being a mom, let's just go back through the history. How was your Ned's Declassified experience? Because I've had Daniel on here. I've had Lindsay on here. I'm probably going to get, Coco. Probably going to get Rob on
Good
here.
old Pinkston.
Just got to go through the OGs.
The OGs.
Because like in my view, Ned's was a really special experience for all of us. We all
Absolutely.
met incredible people. We all had this incredible, fun show that we were creating together. We had this beautiful family while we were making it. It's lasted with a fan base.
Oh my
It's
God.
lasted.
It's insane.
Yeah, which is surprising how long it's kind of stayed through. And I know it's just, it's a meaningful part of all of our lives who were on it.
Absolutely.
Even the adults I've caught up with from the show, like I caught up with Darren recently.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
And even he like has this time and place that Ned's was, but here we are all these years later. And how was your Ned's experience?
I mean, special. I think you're 100% right. It was like overall, I feel like, especially now, like hearing all the stories of other people's experiences at our age on different shows makes
for
me
real.
even more grateful. Like
Yeah.
I already was, and it already felt special, but truly it's been wild to hear some of these stories. Cause I've had people like outside of the industry be like, did you guys ever, and I'm like,
Right.
no, like we
Like,
really
not at all.
didn't.
Like,
and I
no.
didn't, and I, not that I like took it for granted, but like I really, truly, that has been wild to me and heartbreaking to me because I really think Scott and everyone else did everything they could to make that as authentic and safe a space as possible. But I think the hardest part was coming on to a show that already existed, and you guys had a shorthand.
Yes.
And not only that, we were at an age where like it's particularly hard to like enter into a group of like hormones are raging. Boys,
that's
girls,
true.
like you and I hit it off right away, but I know that was even like a bit
For
of the
some
point
of
of
the girls,
contention a little
yeah.
bit. But again, it was like, even then I remember thinking like, I get it, but what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? Because so, and again, that was like a blip, but I do remember that was a little
That's
hard.
true. I kind of forgot that. So Carlie came on second season. First season, not your same role, but the
like,
archetype
of
of
a
your
mean
role
girl, yeah.
of the blonde mean girl was played by our friend Spencer,
Yep.
who we both know. She booked something else, I think. And so they created the new character, Missy Meany. You came on second season, but we had all as a cast already done the first season together.
Yeah.
We were all really close already. And you're right, at that age, like, yeah, we had shorthand. We were all friends. There were already little connections happening.
Of course there was.
And then
Yeah.
you, a pretty new blonde girl, came on the scene, and you actually like vibed with all of us dudes really quickly. Like,
Which is the story of my life. But I, again, like now in getting older, I've been able to look back and be like, I can understand why to other young women that could come off a certain way, but it was really more like the tomboy in me that was like bonding with guys. It was certainly not like the
you
flirt.
weren't
It wasn't
swooping.
like
No.
not at all. But at the same time, like I for so long was like, I'm just friends with guys, and now I'm like, ew. Like I can unpack that in a way that like I knew what I meant when in that experience, and I knew that I just did bond with guys easier.
Yeah.
But like it's been womanhood to unpack that and why, and now I have such incredible relationships with women.
Exactly.
But like again, when you're 13, 14, none of that is present. All it is like, wow, these girls really don't seem like they like
they're
me
a
being
little cold.
here.
They're a little cold to me.
A little cold. And when I first started, there was no guarantee of more than like I think an episode or two.
Right.
And then it was like it just
You were
kept
on
going, and then
on.
Scott
Yeah.
was like, no, like we want you on it.
Yeah.
So then I remember being like, oh, we really got to figure this out, and we did.
And
We
I was gonna say,
absolutely did.
eventually, it was everyone was everyone's friend. Like,
Yeah, I think it was just like there was a little bit of a peacock thing going on everyone's front at first, which I truly now as an adult fully understand.
Exactly.
But then it was great. I mean, like truly so special that we were all so close, and although we were with each other all the friggin' time, we were still like, hey, this weekend we're hanging out, right?
Exactly.
Like
I know.
so beautiful.
Yeah,
and
it
like,
was.
you know, it had its like moments because we're human and we're all kids, but like truly so special. And I do credit so much of that to Scott Fellows though, because he's one of the people that has like planted so many seeds in my being as a person, as an actor, as a writer, all of it. I'm like,
I know.
you can set a tone for people in
know.
life and on a set
I know.
that then you go to other sets and you're like, wow, that is not common. That
It's
is not
not.
common. And so like, I already was grateful for it, but the older I've gotten, I'm truly that much more grateful for it. Because I'm like, what an
Same.
incredible launch pad for life. Not just acting or being in this
Exactly.
industry, but life.
Life, working together, collaborating, creating, being with people, being a leader.
Oh my God.
Being in a support role, like all of, I know, Scott Fellows, I cannot sing his praises enough. Like the older I get, the more I'm just like, wow, how that dude led
Like
a
now
set
when I think of
is
him, I just
so
like want to
beautiful.
cry, like happy cry, but like I just want to be like, Dad. Like it's like it's bizarre, but it's also just like so special. Like he just and I my brother-in-law actually had worked with him at Disney under a
no
totally
way.
insane.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, Scott. And he's like, dude, Scott. Like,
Yes,
you know what I mean?
yes.
It wasn't just our experience. That is who he is.
Yes, you know Kendall very well,
Yes.
who I had on, and Kendall and I got to connect on that too. Of like, dude, Scott, right?
That's
Jabba.
or Eye of the Tiger.
Eye of
To
the Tiger.
this day, if I can't stop laughing, I still like in a situation I maybe shouldn't be laughing in. I just hear like
Scott's
sweet
voice.
Scott Fellows being like Eye of the Tiger and being like, oh, we gotta get shit. You guys, we gotta get it together. We gotta get it together. But yeah, it's wild, and that's insane too. Because I've known Kendall even long. Like I've known Kendall. I feel like from the womb, although it wasn't, but like damn near. We met in elementary school.
Yeah.
Our moms were like enrolling us, and we met in the lobby, and like that was even insane. That like you know, I've been friends with him the whole time. And then I think like being friends with you, then he's like, I was friends with him. And then our friend group started like merging at like parties.
Yep.
And then when Big Time Rush came up, like I literally remember my dad talking to Scott at one point about Kendall for it. And then all of a sudden it was like, before you knew it, it was like, Kendall's working. It's nuts. And then I got to go do that with them. And I'm like, Scott's still the best. He's still the best. Like, just forever the best.
Yeah, we got really blessed to work with. And they're out there in the industry, these creators who just are in it for all the best reasons.
All the best.
And understand that it's a massive collaborative process to make a show or a movie. And that part of that is it's a miracle. And it's humans. It's human connection. Like, you can't treat people like shit. We all have to do this difficult, amazing, fun, weird thing together. And like, he's just the greatest.
The greatest.
Also, on top of Scott being the greatest, the more we've been rewatching Ned's on the podcast and kind of drumming up memories, I also just like give it up to my fucking mom for being the shit as well.
Absolutely.
She's like reminded me of certain things that like she stood up for us. And I'm like, oh, that was you? And she's like, yeah, they were like, weren't going to give you air conditioning. Like, she's like, no fucking way.
Valerie,
like
the real MVP, baby.
Yeah.
Oh,
she's
that's
like
amazing.
She's like queen mom.
She is.
She was holding it down in a tough, but like real way. Cause that's also it. If like the lead of the show, especially for a kid show, if the mom is either absent or the other side, which is stage mom, competitive, aggressive, like that's going to set
is my baby getting?
That's going to set a weird tone for things. But my mom was really there for protection. She's there to watch out for me and in turn all the other kids, unless your parent was a stage mom, in which case my mom, you were off the list.
Fair. That's fair.
If any parent showed any kind of, my mom was like, I won't talk, she wouldn't talk to them. But like, all of our families were connected at that time because we are kids on a show. So our parents have to be there while we're filming. So then the parents have to figure out how to get along with these strangers.
They did, which was once again kind of like, as us Jews say, b'sher. Like, so fortunate and unlikely, but beautiful that like legitimately we all had great parents. Like we all really did, and it's just special is the word that just keeps ruminating into
I know it really is. It's a special, weird thing, this Ned's journey that some of us aren't off. I've just been reflecting on like I'm still on, like this experience isn't over for me. Yes.
You've done so much. No, but I mean like outside of, you've done so much with it outside of just like, I'm Ned Bigby. Mm-hmm. Like you're like, you've used it as a channel to be like of service to other people, which is ultimately the coolest thing you can do with something that you're known for from when you were younger.
Yeah.
But I get it. Trust me. Like my dad to this day, no matter how many other things I've done, my dad to this day is like, yeah, I met these cool people. I'm like, Dad, he's like, they watch Ned, and I'm like, and I'm so curious how that got brought up, Dad, because I'm
like,
pretty
well,
certain
I brought it up.
A random stranger didn't go, hey, your daughter that I've never seen or met, was she on Ned's Declassified? But there's moments where I'm just like, I gotta do something that we get past that imprint. But then again, I'm like, but at the same time, he's always met with like, oh my God.
That's it.
Like,
it's always
so cool.
Oh, and I'm sure he loves it.
Of course he does.
Jim Casey
Why do you think he's still
loves
doing it when I'm 32 years old? Bless his heart.
Oh, bless your parents. Your parents are also like family to me when I see them, and it's so nice to have friends' parents that I feel the parent love from.
Absolutely.
Like any birthday anytime I get to check in with your parents, it's that thing where I just feel taken care of and loved and supported as like a son.
I love that. They'll love that. But again, I'm like, how fortunate are we that that's the case?
It's lovely.
Like you and I have like, I feel like beat the odds in so many ways of like how much we have stayed friends and close through all of this. Yeah. But then also to like have that with family too. Like I was just telling you, your sister and I were texting about like pregnancy and motherhood. And I'm like, what a beautiful, every time I see your mom again, I'm like, oh, it's Valerie.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, it's just the warmth of just, I don't have that with everybody.
Yeah.
And it makes it, the older I'm getting, the more I'm just like, I don't want that with everybody. I'm just grateful
True.
for who I have that with.
True.
And like, my cup is full. Like,
it's true. Well, you can't shortcut this amount of time too. So the older I get, the friendships that have been around as long as they have, the just more grateful I get every year, because I don't want it with everyone. There's only so much capacity for new friendships these days.
100%.
And the friends who have really seen me through so many different lives I've lived and identities and all the changes, I'm very grateful for the long ones.
100%. And the long ones, but also the ones that like, who are still willing to be on the ride with you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I was listening to an episode you did with, and I feel like I'm gonna mess up her name. Sophie, what was her last name?
Oh, Sophie Barron.
Oh my God. That was so I'm gonna listen to it like 10 times because I felt like I needed, my soul needed to hear it, but I literally was the freak in my room nodding to no one like a crazy person, and like stopping and going back, because so much of what you guys were saying, I was like, yes. And even just hearing you guys talk about it, I'm like, God, it is so refreshing to hear the authenticity of this experience that so many of us are having. But that idea of like, I am very much also recovering from being a people pleaser, like to the depth of my being. Like, it is clinging. I've made progress, but it is clinging. The claws are in, and it's really wild how much that's there. But the more I've been aware of it, the more consciousness I like put around it, I realize like not all friends can handle still being present in when you start to recover from people pleasing, or not even just family, anybody. Like, I'm really in an interesting space right now where I'm like, I can't show up the same way that I did before, because so much of my identity was like, I'm the good friend. Because it feels
I'll
like
be there for anything.
Any
Always
hour,
anything.
baby. You call me, and I meant that. Like, I
Right.
truly meant that, because it made me feel like this is what I'm here to do. This is what
This is what being a good person, a good friend is. Yeah.
Like, Scott over the years has been like, you're depleted, you're exhausted, like, and I'm like, but that's just part of being present.
So giving.
So giving. It's such a good person. But then like over the years I have gotten better about it. But then this like transition into pregnancy has been interesting, because I am 25 weeks today and I'm still throwing up every day. And that affects your life in a way that you can't fathom. And part of that has been like self-preservation, of literally being like, what can I do today? Like, I'm growing a nugget.
Yeah.
But that's happening whether anything. But like, also I have work, I have commitments, I have my partner, I have all these different things that like sometimes I find myself like, oh, I can't show up the way that feels so good to me. And then looking at how that affects my friendships has been like a real growth spurt moment.
Wow.
Not always the most comfortable, but I'm grateful for it.
I know what you're talking about. When you start to change what's been the norm, especially on the people pleaser side, if people are used to you having almost no boundaries, when you actually start to take back healthy boundaries, it can feel like betrayal to some people.
That's literally it. And I love that you said healthy boundaries, because that's the other part, is the meme world of talking about boundaries in a way that I'm like, that's not a boundary, that's being a dick.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, so much is like, I feel like when you dip into like the mental health world, like the real work of doing, of like expanding your consciousness, of becoming a better person and getting healthier, whatever, none of that can be put into a meme. Like, you know, like I see these things around relationships that it's like, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. And I'm like, that's actually so unhealthy. You know what I mean? I've been with Scott for 12 years. If that was the case, hello. Do you know what I mean? Like we have such...
It's not always a fuck yes.
It's not always a fuck yes. And I'm like, it's kind of scary to think that we're coming up in a time where we're saying that. Like there's so much nuance there. And I think the same is true for boundaries. Like boundaries can be fluid. They're not brick walls.
No.
But I think most people think a boundary is a brick wall, and energetically it feels like one. Yeah. And so that has been something for me too, where I'm like, for a minute when like boundaries were first introduced to me, I would like use the word a lot, and that was very triggering to people. And I was like, right, duh, Carlie. Like no one wants to hear like, I need to have a boundary. You know what I mean? Like, because immediately it's like, you're like, well, screw you. So now I'm like, no, that's not healthy either. So it's about finding the healthy boundary
Yeah.
and not just like I'm just doing me now. Like, no, that's also shitty, but
Yeah.
it's just those little pivots that are really powerful, but also, like you said, can feel like betrayal.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Yeah. If you're changing a pattern that people are used to, then you all of a sudden, taking more priority on yourself. Like, they're going to be like, well, why aren't you fucking...
Yeah, 100%.
Have you seen the... There's like, I think it's going around TikTok. There was like this meme. It kind of had to do with boundaries. Like, I think it was the lady meant well, but
they always do, I think.
the lady meant well, but she was trying to like give an example of like a healthy way to like take a step back from a friendship. And she just like, the way she shares it is just, I mean, it's just absurd. Like, no, dude, that's not healthy communication. It was just like, like we have had a really good connection, but I'm feeling like right now I can't hold, like, it's just like too much to just like take a step back from a friendship. And it was like the word salad meme, trying to make a meme out of pulling back from a friendship. And it's like, you can't exactly meme any of this shit. It's so much messier and more specific than a meme. Every instance it's more specific than
always
these things. I actually get troubled by, we love meme culture because memes hold a nugget of truth that we resonate with, and we go, oh, that's life, or that's funny. That's a funny aspect of life. That's a funny aspect of the truth. But I have noticed, I think way too many complicated matters are, memes are created around them, and then people are actually like misplacing the meme for truth.
Or you see what you want to see in the meme.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I'm not going to do astrology as a whole because there's certain things about it where I'm like, that is spot on.
Yeah, for sure.
But like I had a minute where I would like see my horoscope every week, and it was like, is it the chicken or the egg? Because if you're telling me I'm going to have a challenging week and then I do, was I really gonna? Or is it because, you know what I mean?
You were prepped to have the challenging 100%, week. 100%.
Yeah. And again, that's not like a statement on astrology as a whole, but like just that idea of you kind of take something.
Well, it's true. And if you start to see things in the meme lens, you're just going to see the memes out in the world.
100%.
But that's just like, memes are so simple. They're simplified life.
And relationships are quite literally the most complex, beautiful thing that we could possibly do. But like, it is the antithesis of a meme.
Yeah.
Truly.
So knowing you were going to come on, like it's in some ways strange having you on, even though it's not, but in terms of like, we're like real friends who have conversations all the time. So I was like, what do I want to talk about with Carlie on a podcast? Even though we can go anywhere. But one of the things, that's sort of what I wanted to ask is, you've been in a 12-year relationship, marriage now, baby on the way. I do think relationships get memeified, commodified, kind of painted in these broad strokes. But I have found, man, they are so specific. They are so nuanced. Every relationship, like, we put too many conventions on them when really they are really personal and different. And it's hard to give blanket statements about relationships. I don't think it works. However, you have enough experience in one that's progressing and relatively healthy. So, got any words of wisdom on relationships, Carlie?
Well, I will say, I do think like it's also so funny to like be on the other side of like, you've been in such a long-term relationship, because growing up I was always the single one. Like I was, you know what I mean? Like, and I was always like, I just don't know. Like, maybe I'm just going to be single. I'm going to be that girl. And then it like turned into like commitment issues where like, if a guy was too nice, I was like, bye. Like, so I had to I really did have to like overcome some shit, because my defense mechanism when I was younger was like, well, if they don't like me, then I'm going to, or like if they don't want to be with me, then I'm going to bounce first. Like that was fully the way I presented. And that had to go out the window when I started dating my husband. But that's what's so funny.
You tried though. You tried with him too.
For sure. Duh. I literally like, it's truly one of those things where it's like, I hate to say this as a whole, because again, like this, I don't want to be the meme or the blanket statement, but I do think in a healthy way, if something is meant for you, you can't mess it up. But I mean that in a healthy way. Like, if there's toxic crap going on, like, no, you're gonna.
It's not meant for you.
It's not meant for you.
Yeah.
But what I mean by that is, like, Scott and I both had our own shit coming to the table, like everybody does, and something about where I was at in my life and where he was at, like, there was just a willingness on both of our sides to be like, yeah, like, we're going to stick around longer than maybe we would have with the last one. And I think what was so interesting about meeting Scott is, like, I had a lot of, like, friend situations where it was a lot of, like, you know, like the friend you like hook up with, but you're like, oh, we're not like together. Like, that felt safe to me. That was like my safety place before I met Scott. But it was also a lot of like lying to myself about like, this is all I need. Like, no, it's not, but whatever. But when I met him, again, I was a person, even at that time in my life, I was like, he loves to say, I was 19, but I was like weeks from 20. So I always was like, I'm almost 20. So like, that's what he loves. He's like, you were 19, Carlie. I'm like, whatever. Point being, young, but old enough to, especially having been in this industry, like, experience the world. I wasn't like a 19 that was just like,
sheltered.
I'd only lived in, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and he's a couple years older than me, but like when I met him, I was like at a party where I knew everybody, and my grandpa had just passed. I was in like a really vulnerable place, and I was like getting ready to leave the party, and this freaking dude walks in, and it was truly one of the first times in my life I felt an energy that I was like, whoa, what is that? Like, who is that and what is that? And I do think that helped me stick around weirdly in a way, because although I was physically attracted to him, that was not the initial thing. Was an energy pull of like, I want to be around this person. So much so that I went home that night and I was like, is he hot? Like, I don't even know if he's hot, because I was so drawn to like the energy of who he was. And that was such a game changer for me, because I used to focus so much on like, just like am I physically attracted to them, all that stuff. And I don't think the industry helps when you're growing up in an industry that's obsessed with appearance.
Yeah.
But like then then I, thank God, ended up being so physically attracted to him. But I truly, that was not my first memory. It was like, it was just this other thing. And I think that other thing is a connection outside of just one thing. It's energetic. And I think for him and I, like, we have been through some serious life shit together, like a lot of loss, a lot of things. And we've both just had a willingness and an energy that exists between us that if it gets too real, if we're arguing and we're really hitting a freaking wall, it's like a little switch goes off in both of us that's like, I want to be here though. I still want to be here. So what do we need to do? Because I think I'm right. You think you're right. But like at the end of the day, I want to be here. I'm still choosing this. So what do we need to do to bridge this gap? That has been the thing that I didn't know it could exist. Yeah. And I truly think is like the main, and we have such a mutual respect for each other.
Yeah,
like I'm so in awe of his talent, of who he is, of his drive, his passion. He's just, I'm so inspired by him. Yeah. That helps. That goes out the window that when I'm annoyed with him, I'm like, whatever, you're just the person
You're a
I'm
piece of
annoyed.
shit.
But again, there is just a switch we have
Fuck
with
your
each other.
talent.
A lot of people are talented, bro. Hello. But that's what I mean is like we've talked about this before. We're like, what is it? And we're like, no, there's just something that goes off in both of us. Yeah. And look, sometimes that means we need to go in other rooms and like chill the fuck out.
Sure, but it's that acceptance that you both want to be there and recognizing that, getting over your whatever is driving the friction.
There's not an abandonment there. I always know no matter how bad it gets, like he's there, and same. And sometimes he'll be the first one to bridge the gap, or I will. But like once someone's initiated it, the other's always right there. Yeah. And I think that's important. You can't be in a relationship where one person's always saving you. You know what I mean? Like it has to be a back and forth.
Both people have to come to the table.
And that's where often. Like again, you see a lot of the like, if he wanted to, he would. And that a lot of times is referencing huge gestures. And I'm like, yeah, huge gestures are cool, but like what's your day-to-day like? You know what I mean? Like how is he showing up when you're going through some shit? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, I don't know if any of that.
No, all that tracks. Huge gestures are another meme of relationships that have been memeified by media that like, I think people put way too much stock in their relationships. Well, he was a piece of shit for 5 months, but then he did that really sweet dinner and he bought me flowers.
And you're like, that is the easiest thing in the world.
Easy.
What's not easy is looking at a person that you love, but feeling so right. Like, because again, we all have that. Like, Lord knows, I am still in relationship to the part of me that is like, I am right though. And I will say, like, meditation has given me truly the gift of split. I am never not split. Like, I truly...
The part of your awareness that knows everything
my God,
is...
and it is such a blessing, but oh my God. I have moments where I'm like, I just want to be a butthole right now, and I don't want the consciousness of something else to come in. I just want to be a turd. Let me be a turd.
Yeah.
And sometimes I am. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I am. But
I'm sure.
I set that up for you. From one turd to another. No, but like, and we've talked about meditation a ton, but like truly... that the gift of that has changed my life in the sense that like I can feel really strongly, but I can never fully let go of the fact that I have an awareness that someone else that I love and respect is having a different experience. And my pain story is going to be the loudest to me. His pain story is going to be the loudest to him. And do I need to have the most painful story in this moment? Is that really what I need? Or do I want connection? Do I want to come back together? Do I want, that has been a game changer for me of just being like, why do I need to be the one most in pain right now? Because a lot of times it does feel like that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's like
you're not hearing my pain. You're not hearing my pain. Well, my pain's more important.
100%. And there's a guy on Instagram. I think his thing is James Fishgill or something like that. I think he calls himself like a heart coach or something, which normally I'd be like, oh boy. But truly, this man has tapped into something with relationships of all kinds. And he literally, one of the things he says is like, what's the pain? What's the longing? Or like, what's, and I have had moments with Scott where like, we're not seeing eye to eye. And I'll literally be like, okay, let's take all this this isn't about dinner. This is whatever. Like, what is your pain? And sometimes I'll literally be like, what is your pain right now? And I remember we had this once and he was like, I feel like right now I feel like you don't like me. And I literally, my whole body just went into like soft little like,
you
what?
went, oh no,
conflict
I love you.
Gone, done.
Yeah.
It was literally one of those things where I was like, we had gotten so worked up. And then to hear him say that, I didn't consider for 2 seconds that that's what he was combating, that his anger was coming from like, I feel like you don't like me. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, so that has also been a game changer of being willing to ask the questions that hold me accountable.
Yeah.
Too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and accountable to the right thing, which is
absolutely.
How are you feeling?
Because
what are you hurting about?
Exactly.
Like, I love you. I'm your partner.
And
what are you hurting about?
I wish that there was more conversation around that because
it's really beautiful.
It's a game changer. It's a shape shifter.
No, it's really beautiful because things build up in relationships, resentments build up, and then all of a sudden they're coming out about the thing that it's not about. All of a sudden you're fighting about the fucking dishes, and it's not about the dishes. It's about something deeper.
I don't feel
and
seen.
Something real, but it's deeper, and it's not coming out as that deeper thing. So then you're fighting about the wrong thing. So I think that's really beautiful. And I think people can take that away is if you're in one of those places with someone is, can you both be real and get down to the real question, which is what's your pain? Ooh, that's
like,
nice.
What's the pain? What's the longing?
What's the pain?
What are you looking for? Because, but again, there are moments where that feels like the hardest thing you could, it's like, you're like, it's just words. But when you are in that like fight or flight, or you're in that like, I have to protect me mode, that's the last thing you want to say or do.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you can just do it, it's literally incredible how much the energy completely changes.
Yeah. The
ego
will drop and you'll get into.
Because the ego can't combat like vulnerability like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, how can I look at you and be mad when you're like, I feel like you don't like me right now? I'm like, are you?
I love you.
I love you. Conflict gone. You know? So that's it's so interesting.
Baby, let me take care of you.
Yeah. So it's like, I feel like there's all of these things. And obviously like, we both do what we can to stay like attractive to each other. And I don't just mean that even physically, of course, is always part of it. But again, like, my body's completely changing right now, and there's a vulnerability around that. But it's like what him and I have is so much deeper that like but that's been years of building on that. You know what I mean? Yeah. That like what I mean by saying like attractive to each other is like, what are you doing to feed yourself outside of just us? Do you know what I mean? Like that's always, because that's the other thing is a lot of times couples, the longer they're together, they become the same person.
Yeah, well, you look in at each other to solve all you look into the partnership for all of the support, all the feedback, all the nurturing, everything is in rather than what are you doing outside of this to fill your
100%.
cup, right? Like, what are you doing this to feel fulfilled?
what initially attracts you to someone is often your differences,
their
to some degree.
individuality.
Their
Yes.
individuality. And I don't mean
like the life they're living. You're like, ooh,
Yes.
they're cool. Like,
Oh
look
my
at their
God.
friends, and like, that's cool. They do what?
Oh, when I
Like-
first went to Scott's house, he had like all these books on Buddhism, and I was like, but so it's like but again, just representing like you're on your own path. Like
Yeah.
you are on a path that is like whatever. But I do think like what initially the individuality, the things, the differences that attracts to people, the more you're with someone, the more you want to agree on everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the agreement of everything starts to make two people turn kind of into the
same
thing,
person, which
even
is
if it's
not
not authentic.
attractive.
And it's not attractive, and also it's not authentic. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we can share a lot of views, but at the same time, like I like knowing that you and I have differences. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's there. And I think over the years, it's like a lot of people lose friends. It's like
Yeah.
it becomes this like amoeba.
Yeah.
And then you look around and you're like, what happened? And it's like you stopped feeding you.
Yeah.
And you just fed the relationship, and it really is a dance. It's
Yeah.
both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you could also go the other way and put so much into yourself that you've completely neglected the relationship,
Sure.
and then
No,
you're
there's a
screwed too.
balance.
But like really that balance of like making sure we have our own things going on, but
Yeah.
also that we're doing things together as well.
Yeah, I see more people than not. Of course, it can go the other way, but I see more relationships than not in that issue, in the issue of becoming too intertwined, too much us, not enough the individual selves.
And it's so easy to do because I think we're creatures of comfort. Like
yeah.
we want to just
And a relationship becomes comfortable. You just want to fucking just puddle into each other and just like, this is my puddle play.
and it
But then
should
you're like,
be
why? But then
sometimes.
you're like, why aren't we attracted to each other? Why is there no spice in our relationship as your two blobs? You know?
Well, and the pandemic didn't help. a
Oh,
lot of
definitely not.
people.
Well, I think the pandemic did help a lot
Actually,
of people.
fair.
Because if you made it through with your partner,
Yeah.
awesome. You
True.
learned that you guys rip, okay? You rip. If you didn't make it through, the pandemic forced you to look at your relationship in
That's
a way
very
that
true.
you were not.
Yeah. Yep.
I know some friends who didn't make it. They didn't make it through the pandemic. And I know some friends who did.
Yeah.
Not only did, with a baby on the way.
But it was not a pandemic baby.
No, it was later than
But
that.
still, it's fair.
But still.
It still resulted in that.
Exactly. So you guys stayed good.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
I'm so excited that you're pregnant, Carlie. I really am.
When we told you, it was funny. Scott did it in a stupid way. We were not getting it, and it was really funny. He was wearing a shirt that said.
All right, so I'm friends with Carlie's husband, Scott. I love Scott. I'm so glad that's who Carlie fell in love with because, like, I love him. I love him. I want him around. But Scott and I
Go
are
Eagles.
both go Eagles, go Birds. Scott and I are both big Philadelphia Eagles fans, and so we get together and watch the game sometimes. So I hadn't seen them in a while. I go over to watch a playoff game, like this was a couple months ago, and Scott's wearing this fucking shirt that says...
It said Saturdays are for the dads.
Says Saturdays are for the dads, okay?
And it was a cool shirt, so it wasn't like an ugly shirt that had very
No,
clear
it was just a
graphic.
cool
Yeah.
shirt with like just this little logo over the breast. Saturdays are for the dads. And he said... Scott was trying to be slick, but it was really, I just didn't
It was
understand.
the opposite of slick. He ended up having his breast in your face.
Yeah, he was like, it's true. He was like, I had to wear like my lucky shirt today. And then he like showed off this Saturdays are for the dads. And I read it and I was like, oh, cool. And then I kept watching the game and he's like, did you see
like
my
it?"
shirt? And I saw it because I looked at it and I said, yeah, Scott, cool. And I kept watching the game and he kept getting closer and showing me this little thing. And I'm just like, yeah, Scott, I get it. Like, you're being funny. You're calling yourself like a dad because you're in your fucking 30s. Like, haha, bud. Like, I just like, and he kept looking at me in this fucking weird
I think it took
way.
me
And I was
like
so
rubbing
confused.
my belly weirdly,
No,
which probably
and
didn't help.
Carlie, you were like finishing up some nachos in the kitchen or something, and I feel like you heard that it wasn't going well, and you just come in the room and you go, Devon, and you lifted up your shirt and showed
Sounds
me
about
that
right.
your stomach was pregnant, and I was like, Oh, there you go. That makes sense now. Not your dumb shirt, Scott. I don't understand what this means.
Not an actor. He's not an actor.
No, his dumb little face was so proud of the shirt and that I should understand what he was telling to me. I did not. Thanks for revealing it. Beautiful moment in my life, truly, to know that you guys are pregnant. It's so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. I'm so happy for the world. I really am. I'm happy for my life. I'm happy for the world. Like, it's crazy getting to the age where the people I know and love are having babies. I'm nowhere close. Unless it's an oopsie baby, which I've talked about. The only way I'm having a baby anytime soon is oopsie. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
But there are ways to prevent oopsie, which we are practicing, right, Devon? Yeah.
Yes.
Because we're adults.
Some of the time. That's a different podcast. Some of the time. Anyways. But my sister just had a baby, and my sister is one of my favorite people in the world, and I'm so fucking stoked. And then finding out that you and Scott are pregnant and are going to have a sweet little nugget this year, like, it just brings me so much joy.
I know. We were so excited to tell you because we kind of waited a while to tell anyone. And then we were like, we just want to tell our friends in person.
I love that, by the way. You didn't, Carlie and Scott, like, before they did the post that let everyone know, you guys took months and only told individual people in person. I felt so glad that you guys, like, told me in a moment with just me so I could really, like, not just see about it, but, like, actually experience this knowledge with you guys and, like, this moment in real life. Like, as friends, hugging each other. It's good.
And I feel like too, I mean, you and I have talked about social media 6,000 times in our, lives. There's so much to unpack there, but I will say, like, it was interesting because even when I was going to tell Scott, when I first found out, I had this moment of, like, do I want to, like, low key record it? Like, for, again, not even to put anywhere, but just, like, for me, like, to have. And because Lord knows, I have watched 1,000 TikToks and cried like a baby when there's these really cute, like, surprise. Oh my God, it's the best. It's the best. So
and
I have
of course,
zero.
Scott was going to take it wonderfully. He's going to go, oh my God.
Yeah, right. But at the same time, it was like, so there's no judgment around it because I love watching that. But again, I think having grown up an actor, all these different things, the camera has I have a different awareness for a situation when I know that a camera's around. Like, that's just the truth. Even if I'm going to not put it anywhere, but I know that's just the case. So I remember, like, the morning, because I found out early. I found out before I even had, like, missed a period. And so he wasn't expecting it or any of it. And I remember I, like, just, like, sat with it for a little while. And then I, like, put my phone somewhere to be like, oh, could I hide it here? And everything in my body was like, no, we're not doing, this is just going to be for him and I, and we're going to remember it forever. That's it. Immediately the presence of a camera for myself made me go, like, blech. Like, I don't want, I'm going to experience this moment different. And I want to experience this just pure raw emotion. And so that's what we did. And I'm so glad that's what we did. But that moment made me go, oh, we're telling our close friends in person, even if that means we're telling them late. Like, because again, like, I knew I didn't even really want to announce it, but then I was like, I have to at some point, because again, with the throw up and the vomit, it's affected my life in a way where, like, I don't do as much as I thought I would be doing pregnant, because it's just like, I'm puking a lot. So I got to a point where, like, I think I started having, like, certain friends that were like, oh, okay, like, you still can't. And I was like, I need to have this be out there and not, I don't have to tell everyone I know in person. But, like, our close friends, it was like, oh no, this is the way to do it. This is the way to do it.
It was so special and real.
Because I'm like, that's a memory we'll always have now. You know, we don't need it on video to remember it. Like, we really got to have that moment with you.
That's a real memory now, was finding that out it's not just like another piece of information I'm consuming on social media, even when it's with a loved one.
Absolutely.
It's just put in this place of just another thing I'm scrolling through that's making me feel things, but then I'm on to the next.
100%. And also part of it too was, like, we didn't tell everyone in person, but we really made sure our closest friends we did, because we're like, this is like a village to some degree. This is a community, and, like, we care very much about who our child will be around and be raised with and all of that stuff, that, like, it felt like the least we could do to start that. You know what I mean? Like, to be like, hey, let's have this moment of connection because you're important and we want you there and all of that. So it was very special. And you're a cute little, you said something like, you looked at me and you were like, I just want you to know, like, I'm going to be here. And it's like, I could cry. Like, it was the sweetest thing because I knew that, but like hearing you say it, I was just like, oh. Like, thank God. Like, how cool that we're.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the way I feel love from your family, the way I feel love from your parents, like your kid and eventual kids maybe will know me as that. Like, I'm around and I am in loving support of your fucking family, you know, and your existence. And whether you see me every couple months or whatever, like, when I'm around, I love you. Like, I love you. I'm going to love your fucking little nugget boy. Oh, God. Oh, God. I'm going to wrestle him.
Oh, my. Well.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I can't wait. And I feel like that's a great thing about that step of adulthood, becoming a mother, is if you were a people pleaser before, you ain't gonna have any capacity for it. Already pregnant, it's changing you. I just visited my sister with her 4-week-old. Like, there's no capacity for anything except that baby for a little while. So,
and
there's no people pleasing.
No, and I will say, like, I'm actually really grateful for it because I'm like, I was already on a path. Like, every time we lost a family member, like, we had like a consecutive, like, I don't know, like 10 or 15 years where we would lose like a grandparent and then my aunt.
Year.
It was really wild that like I've walked with grief for so long that even like being open to the joy of a baby felt terrifying because it was like every day it was like, this is going to end up not going the right way. Like, that's so deeply wired there. But there's also like a gift in that too. It's a balancing act. But every loss that we experienced, I had to start taking better care of myself and like, it would be like a 5%. Okay, I can't people please 5%, like less. You know what I mean? It was a process of coming back to myself, but this has been the wrecking ball of like, well, whether you want to or not, it's not a choice anymore. Like, you quite literally, your body needs you to be in tune with yourself first. And that means you're not going to be on your phone as much. You're not going to be as available. And so it's a blessing. It's truly a blessing. But of course it comes with feelings because I so like to be validated in my need to be because I really like and I know you're the exact same way, like being of service in any way is literally like the saving grace of my life, like my mental health
gives me purpose,
all of it.
Give me something to show up for. Great.
It's and especially too, like with work, like with Blank Page that I've been doing, like to me, I'm like, it doesn't feel like work. Like getting to talk about something I love and being of service to someone's story or something like that. I'm like, my sessions always go over because I'm just like Scott will be like, was that like 3 hours? And I'm like, yeah. But like, it's literally, I'm like, it's life force energy, not for that person, for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it's like, now I'm going to be of service to a baby who literally needs me. Yeah. Which is slightly intimidating, but also like, what a gift. Yeah. Like, and the preparation of being like, I'm sharing everything with you. Like my whole, and the other thing I keep thinking is like, how often do you, well, never other than when you have a baby, but like the true epiphany of like, you are of my body, but you are not me. Yeah. When you come out, you are not me. Like you are your own entity. I'm not doing this for you to be another me. Yeah. But for 9 months, we're sharing all my shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's something so divine about that, but also wild. Like it's mainly beautiful with the side of like also then so often I'm checking in like, what do I need? Because so much of my brain has been like, well, what's good for the baby? What and then there's times where Scott's like, okay, but what do you need right now? Like, do you need like different things? And because I'll get like really bad migraines from all the throwing up. Like it's all these things. And, you know, we have no healthcare system that supports women through this. And I already knew that. But again, when you're living it, it's like a whole other thing. Yeah. That like I've quite literally needed to get massages because I can't take drugs that help with migraines. Yeah. And so like, but how much I've even noticed that part of myself that's like, well, that's a luxury. And Scott's like, it's not a luxury. Like you literally need a massage. Like you literally need to move your muscles or else like you can't get through the day. Right. So I'm grateful because I feel like there's so many gifts in being of service to this little nugget that I'm learning for me of being like, taking care of myself is not luxury. When you know what I mean?
It's essential.
It's essential, but I do think as women, it's a weird walk. It's like, it's for everybody, it's a weird walk. Yeah. But as a woman, it's really, because I feel like a lot of times when we talk about self-care, it's like your nails. And sometimes getting my nails done is truly self-care. Yeah. But then when it comes to something like this, it's like there's not a lot of talk around it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, or it's just, I don't know, it's bizarre. It's an interesting space.
Yeah. Well, and like, what's better? Like, you'll know moving forward, I'm sure, as your kids growing up too, is like, I know for me, I would want to be showing up as best I can, like a taken care of person.
Yeah.
For my child to see.
100%.
Like, I have to prioritize myself in some ways so that my kid sees a
100%.
person who cares for themselves, you know? Like,
and that has been, to be honest, part of the reason Scott and I waited so long was because I've been career minded since I was a child, and I like that about myself. That's the thing, is like, Scott and I would talk about it. I'm like, no, I love that about myself.
Yeah.
Like, I love that I've been working since I was a child.
Yeah.
Professionalism, all these things, like, they matter to me. They're values to me.
Yeah.
That I always felt like it would be like, well, once you're this, then you can't be that.
Yeah.
And it took years of conversations between him and I, but then also just like my own understanding of like, no, actually, I want to be a mother that still has dreams and goals and is taking care of myself, because I don't want that to be transferred to him where he feels like he has to be doing all of that for me.
Right.
I know how often that happens with the best intentions. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
I always believe that mothers have good intentions for these things, whether it ends up, toxic or whatever happens. But like, that has been a conversation Scott and I have all the time. Because
Right.
I'm like, you love to travel. So much of your job is traveling, and
true.
you are going to keep doing that. You're going to need to stick around for a little bit so we can get this baby, like alive and going. But the idea of like, your values are still your values, and like,
still be what and who you are.
exactly.
And what you
Let's
love.
share them. Also,
Yeah.
not impose them. All
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that. So it's like,
You will film this, baby. Yeah. It's beautiful. I can't wait to see and meet your kid. It's going to be a lovely
too.
thing. Yeah, me too. Who are you, little man?
who are you who's making mommy throw up every day?
Yeah, damn.
But now he's kicking, which is cool.
And so you're still actively pursuing your dreams and passions, one of them which is screenwriting.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. I have also kind of fallen in love with that over the years and love
And you're good
geeking
at
out
it,
about it.
too.
Thanks. I love geeking out about it and
it's the
just
best.
like nerding out about story and talking about it. Carlie started a screenwriting coaching business.
Yeah, it's like coaching and consulting. Yeah.
Yeah, coaching and consulting on story, screenwriting, finishing scripts, all of that, because it's actually a difficult process that a lot of people need support through. Everyone needs support through.
Well, I
in some
started it
form or
because I,
another.
for years, couldn't. That I was
Yeah.
like, this isn't built in.
Yeah, how did that evolve?
The origin of it was like, I felt very fortunate as an actor to like do a lot of the stuff I wanted to do, but then it got to a point where I was like, so much of what I was auditioning for, I was like, blech. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be part of more of an expression of this. And I had an acting coach at the time that was just like, hey, like if you want someone to keep you accountable, because that was always it. I had so many like a third written scripts,
Yeah.
the best intentions, man.
Yeah.
But I could never finish it. And he was
Yeah.
literally like, why don't I'll be your consistency. So for a few months, every like 2 weeks, we would meet up, and it would just we didn't even, I don't even know that we talked story that much, a little bit, and I don't even know but it was literally knowing I have a person
That's gonna ask.
that's gonna
Did
ask.
you write?
I need to have
how'd
pages,
you get
whatever.
through?
That it
Yeah.
was so simple, but it completely changed the game for me.
No, it makes sense.
I never needed it again after. But that's
Yeah.
the other thing is I always say to people, I'm like, I'm not meant to do this with you all the
Yeah,
time.
we're
Like,
gonna-
unless you really want that.
Right.
But like, part of the lesson of it is once you do this once and you see you can complete something, you
do it.
typically don't really need someone to help you do it again. But that was such a game changer for me. And so it wasn't an issue for me again. And then the more I continued doing my own screenwriting, I was so enamored with talking about story. I was just like, I love talking about story and what makes something great and what
Yeah,
makes something not
same.
hit or whatever. And I had so many peers that would be like, would send me a script and like want notes. It just kind of happened like very naturally. And then after years of that, it got to a point where I was like, well, what would be like my niche? And I'm like, it would definitely be like helping people finish their scripts, because there's not a lot out there, and it's a game changer. It absolutely is. But then also doing consults with people on their scripts, where it's like so often like the coverage you buy, you spend so much money.
Yeah.
People get pardon my French, dog shit notes where
Yeah.
it's literally like main character unlikable. Okay, Susan, what do I do with that? That's
Right.
not an actual note.
Right.
Like
I can't do right.
I can't do anything with it. And
Right.
I for me like was like, no, like what helps people is when you can talk through notes.
Yes.
Let's have conversation. Let me ask you questions instead
Yeah.
of making assumptions.
Yep.
Let's dig into why this maybe didn't resonate for me, but it resonates for you. Or
Right.
a lot of times with writers, I notice that it's like they are on draft, you know, if they come to me for a consultation, they're on draft 6, 7, whatever. The story is so embedded in their head that they're not aware of what's missing on the page because they're imposing, they know it, but they're imposing things that aren't always on the page onto the page. And then as the reader, I'm like, oh no, that's not here. Do you know what I mean? And so
you haven't shown this part of
you see, and they're like,
transition.
oh, I see. And I'm like, totally, you see, I get it. Because again, as a screener, I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
The closer I am to a story, almost the worse I start to get at being like good at what works, what doesn't, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just it just turned into that. And then it's really been beautiful. Like I've been able to work with the cool writers are generally pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And they're all so passionate and they all feel this, they're all like suffering the same ego BS we all do, which is like, I just don't think I'm good enough, or if I'm struggling to write, then I have to. And it's like, no, it's so much. The thing that I always get the most passionate about, the two things are, one, read your dialogue out loud.
Yes.
That is like my biggest note. I'm like, it's free, baby. Take it. Do it. It's how often you'll read a script and you're like, this dialogue was not read out loud.
Actually say it.
But as actors, we know that, right?
Yeah,
so that's why
why
I went into screenwriting being like, well, my dialogue's gonna rock because I know what it's like to have an audition and be like, this dialogue is foreign. This is what an alien would say as a person, and that's not the role.
Exactly.
The role is high schooler or whatever. So that is one thing I always focus on people with dialogue is like, just say it out loud. But also just like stop waiting for flow. Stop waiting for this overwhelming orgasmic moment to hit you where sometimes that happens. And Lord knows I've had those. Best feeling ever.
Yeah.
But writing is truly a muscle.
Yeah.
And I've had the privilege of working with some people over and over again and seeing their last script to their next one. I'm like brought to tears. I'm like, oh my God, this is already so much better out the gate.
Yeah.
Because you're doing this every day or you're doing it every week. Do you know what I mean? And so much of it has just been like, it's just been really beautiful to be of service to that. And it also, I learned so much as I'm continuing to do this, but it's just such a cool thing, but it's such and it's hard though. Like
it's so
there's
hard.
such a
Writing is so hard.
Like
every day you try and write is like climbing up a goddamn mountain. Every day the mountain is the same size. It's never getting smaller.
Yeah.
Because it's like the mountain of the actual pages you need to write, but also it's the mountain internally of I need to write. Yep. It's why yours is called blank page coaching. But when the blank page is in front of you, every day that blank page is a mountain. Doesn't matter if you're on page 99 or page 1. I watched Aaron Sorkin's masterclass, and I was comforted by the fact that he said like 80%, 85% of like his writing, you know, if he's writing a script for 2 years, he's like 85% of that time is like pacing around stressed, feeling like I can't do it.
Yep.
But with it in front of him, you know, showing up to it, but feeling like a total piece. And this is the greatest, this is one of the greatest screenwriters ever. He continues to put out perfection after perfect script. So hearing that, because I feel that often, but hearing that Aaron Sorkin experiences that, I was like, oh, so this is just writing. Got it.
100%.
This like internal battle with yourself to just start filling out the page and make it make sense and let it be imperfect.
And not comparing,
it's brutal.
And not comparing your first draft to Aaron Sorkin's final draft. That's the other thing is that there is no better education for screenwriting than reading other scripts, just in the sense that it's like, it's a masterclass, right? And it's free, baby. It's free. I'm all about the free. But at the same time, like, so often people are comparing their first draft that no one's meant to see.
Yeah.
Nobody is meant to see it. To a final
film version.
Which, by the way, you're like, so much has changed even there.
Exactly.
But it's interesting how I think we all like know that. And yet I'll even at times where I'm like, I find this pressure to be like, well, this first draft needs to slap. And it's like, no, it doesn't. It really actually doesn't. Because the first draft is me figuring out what the story even is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
most of it's discovery. 100%.
It should be long. It should be long-winded. The character should be talking too much. All of that stuff. And so it's so fun. And I love it so much because I feel like it all feeds itself. Like selfishly, I feel like I get to be a better writer because I'm talking about story all the time.
Yeah.
But then I also, it feels so good to be able to provide something for a fellow writer that makes their job of writing a little bit easier.
Yeah, helps them get
or a
through.
little more fun.
Yeah.
And specifically like I call it like script therapy, the consultations I do, because that's what it is. It literally, I was talking to my best friend Danny, who's a therapist. She's like, no, that is like, you are actually doing a form of therapy.
Yeah.
Which I love, but the conversation is what makes, I see it change in people's eyes. There's no more defense. There's no like, well, you don't get, you know what I mean? It's like, that's where it really gets in, and we get to have fun and see like what this story is really about, or like what, you know. And sometimes I say like, I wish people had to like pass a test to give notes to other people, because a lot of times I'll have clients who will come to me and they're like, yeah, like so-and-so said I should do this, and this. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you didn't listen to that. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's just like having an attunement to like, I think there's also like a business mindset around screenwriting, which is part of screenwriting, but you cannot go into writing being
with just
that,
no.
because you'll smell it immediately, and it's like, no thanks. You have to love story to write.
Yeah, and you have to love your story.
100%.
You're writing, you know, you gotta
absolutely.
be into it.
It's got to be for you first and foremost, like truly, and not like, well, this is what's hip right now. No, you're already behind the trend then anyway, if that's the case. You know,
exactly.
So it's like, it's the best though. I love it. I really, really love it.
It's so cool you're doing it. I love it, and I love seeing like a lot of us kid actors started in the same place, which is being kid actors in LA, pursuing whatever the fuck. And I just love seeing over these years where everyone's passions land and rise and fall, and some people stay obsessed with the acting, some people leave it entirely. Like you getting into story, some go into filmmaking, right? Like it's all, I just love seeing how this thing continues to unfold in all of us.
And I also think too, because I know like we've talked so much about like, and you were said like with Ned's and like how it hasn't left you and all these different things, but like Scott and I talk about this a lot too, is like there is such beauty and grace in the pivot. In the things didn't go the way that I thought, and so now I'm going to pivot. Sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it does mean you're doing a job that you don't love for a little while. But when you allow it to not mean failure, and you actually allow it to mean this is just another part of my purpose or whatever, it's actually the coolest thing ever. I'm like, I don't mean this like in a dickish way, but like how boring to think that you have to do one thing forever. It's so cool to find different ways to do things. And I feel like for me, like before Blank Page, it was like, I did a web series. I was like, I want to know, like, one of the people who truly changed my life was Bill Lawrence. I did a pilot for him.
God, he's so good.
He is the best. Like, he
man.
is the best.
Yeah.
He is the best. He's the best in watching his shows, but actually working with him, he is the best. Like, he's like a Scott Fellows.
Yeah,
he sets a
He's one of
tone
those.
on a set.
Yeah, this is the creator of Cougar Town,
Scrubs, Ted Lasso.
Yeah, he writes on. Yeah.
I mean, it's endless. And now Shrinking, which is so good. But
he's so good.
He's so good because he marries heart and humor. His writing is heart and humor, and he nails it every time. But the dynamic he puts on set is freedom. Like as an adult, it was the first time I was like, oh, there can be a set like this. Like there can be a person who trusts you enough to like let you be your absolute funniest because he believes in you. So you're like, well, who am I to like, you know, whatever. But that experience made me go like, oh, I want to try this myself. I want to try to create an environment myself and whatever. And we did it for nothing, but Scott's good at what he does. So it looked expensive. Yeah. But like that was my first pivot, was like, okay, it's still acting. I'm still in it.
But let me make my own thing.
Let me make my own thing. Let me write it. And I probably stupidly got almost no notes on it. I just went for it. I was like, if this is going to suck, then it's going to suck because it's mine and not because anyone else.
It didn't suck. It didn't suck.
But that was like my first pivot, and it was exciting, but also scary because it felt like I had to acknowledge my acting career didn't go exactly the way I wanted. And that's why I'm now experimenting with making my own shit.
Yeah.
But then that was so incredible that like, then that made me go like, oh, I like writing and I think I'm pretty good at it. And then that led to the next thing. And now I have such fulfillment doing what I'm doing that I'm like, thank God that I didn't actually have it go the exact way I wanted, because then I wouldn't get to experience all this. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
But that's not without absolute dark nights of soul where it's
hard
like,
to come by. That process is hard.
Yes. So
the pivots come with deep identity reckoning,
deep
nights where your head is just like, am I useless? Am I a failure?
100. So I don't mean to make it sound kumbaya because it is not.
But it's true what you said. It's like, also, how boring would it be if what I thought I needed the world to be was what it was?
But
how boring if I didn't have
truly,
to go discover other things than what I thought, than what I planned.
I also think, though, your music to me is always the thing. It like, to my core, because I don't remember if it was your first performance or not, but your City Walk one. Do you remember that?
Jeez, yeah.
I think that might have been either
that's one of the first.
One of the first,
for sure.
I remember, like, I wanted to barf before because I was so nervous for you. I knew you were gonna kill it, but I'm one of those people that's like. I remember Vanessa and I were like, he's got it, and you did great and you were amazing. But like, your music was always good. You always wrote good out the gate. You wrote good stuff.
Thanks.
And then all of a sudden, one day, you started writing stuff on a level that was like insane. Like, dare I say, brilliant. Like,
Thanks.
Temple is one of the most incredible songs I've ever heard in my life. Bar none. Not from people I know ever. And you were so tapped into something that does not come from easiness.
Yeah.
That song didn't come to you from your life being exactly what you thought your life was going to be.
No.
And that to me is, with you, I always think about that. I'm like, you were always good, but that song is bigger than you and everything. And but you had to go through enough things in your life to birth that song.
Yeah.
And you would have never maybe had something like that if you know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. That's another like natural unfolding of life. Like, this is if you stay open and stay in discovery and stay as close as you can to your sense of the truth.
Yes.
Like, my music was always coming from some true place in me, but there was a time where I was coming at it a little bit outside in. Assigned to Universal, coming off Ned's for a little bit, and I was looking at music a little bit too outside in, business minded, like
it's hard not to.
How do I impress them? How do I get them to like me, to like it? And after enough time, it started to shift and become like something else. And actually, I wrote Temple one summer, and then I'm like, how much do I want to say on here? And then I actually learned a lot more about what music can be outside of the pop music industry when I got to sing these songs I had written in the privacy of my heart and life. I got to sing them for people in a psychedelic healing ceremony. I got to sing them for people in an ayahuasca ceremony. And it really changed what music was for me. I said, oh my goodness, like, yes, there's the side of pursuing music as an industry, but there's also like this really primal thing of giving voice to like heart, giving voice to not just my heart, but our collective heart and soul and experience, and singing it in a certain setting can really move people. It can really move them through something. It can really get people to accept and hear a part of themselves. And you don't need psychedelics for that. That's just, that was just kind of the opening for me. And it really shifted my relationship to music forever after that ceremony. I said, oh, wow, beyond this experience, which was incredible and beautiful, but moving forward in my life now, I know more about what I can do musically out of giving, not out of how do I get people to look at me, but how do I like give something that feels, that means something,
100, and you can feel that. Like you can feel that. Literally one of the first details after Scott proposed to me and we like sat down to like, all right, what do we want this wedding to be? Because we knew we wanted to have a wedding, but we were like, we don't want it to be completely traditional. We want it to be literally one of the first details was like, we want Devon to sing Temple beforehand because it's not just a song. It's an affirmation, but it's also a prayer, and it's a calling in, and it is so powerful, and it is 100%, like you said, not coming from out in, it is in out, and you can't do anything but respond to it when you hear something like that. And the best part about it is we knew we wanted that. My family knew, everyone was like immediately like, yes. And it was so special because you did it before the ceremony, and that's what we wanted. We wanted to like set the tone. And when I tell you, to this day, we have like friends and family, like specifically on like Scott's side too, that we don't see all the time. Like he, to this day, every time we see him, he's like, that song, man, like true. I mean, true. Like it really, and again, like all different walks of life. He's way older than us. He's all these different things. He's on his own path. Maybe not someone. I don't know if he would identify as like spiritual or not. But it didn't matter. My point is, it doesn't matter when you're in the realm of truth and you're in the realm of vulnerability like that. You can't not respond to it.
Yeah, that was so special. That was so cool. So I wrote this song, Temple. It's out on Spotify and stuff.
If
There's
this
an
isn't
EP
an ad,
you
better go
I'm
listen
just gonna plug
now.
it a little bit.
No, please.
It's Temple's out there. It's an older song of mine, but it's been out there. And the recording of it is just one version. Like it's such an alive song and prayer and whatever. And it has shown up throughout my life to be something bigger than me. I wrote it, didn't know what it was going to be, and it's just turned into this thing. But one of the highlights of Temple in my life was getting to sing it before your wedding. Like what an honor to set the kind of tone for your guys' ceremony.
And it totally did.
And then you walked down the aisle to River by Leon Bridges, which
still makes me cry
every time I hear it, because I think of you walking down the aisle. It's such a beautiful song already. Yep. That song moves me to tears already. And now I have this beautiful memory of like it being your wedding day. So that's gorgeous.
And then
Maceo, then their officiant, kind of improvised it. He checked in with Scott first, but improvised it during Carlie and Scott's vows. They used the lyrics to my song in their vows, and I wept. When I tell you I wept, I wept.
The best part is no one checked in with me, and I'm so grateful because I did not expect it. And then I was like, like it was just such a potent, but that's what I mean. That is the power of that song. It exists in its own realm, and you could have only birthed it if you had walked this exact path that you walk.
Yeah, and it's not the idea of what my life would be, but it's a beautiful path.
100%.
I love this life. It's discovery. It's figuring out like what I'm here for, what matters to me, what do I want to give.
And allowing your purpose to be more than one thing. That's something Scott and I have been talking about a lot. And I was talking about it with my mom too. Like, I feel like we're in a time right now where it's like, you want to be so like, no, this is the thing that I'm doing. And it's like, but what if your purpose is all of these things?
Right.
This is part of your purpose.
Right.
Part of your purpose is the music that you do. Part of it is the screenplays you write.
Right.
Some of it's the acting. Some of it's being an uncle to your niece.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like instead of, it takes the pressure off of everything to go like.
It to be this one thing.
Yeah. Like I get to live some form of my purpose today, whether I book a job or not. That's the thing I think people that are not in this industry don't totally get, is that it's like you become so accustomed to rejection.
Yeah.
It is your set point more than anything.
Yeah.
That there's beauty in that, but there's also a lot of pain in that. And you start to feel like, well, I can't live my passion unless someone else allows me to. And like, I feel like the tour we've all been on that you were like talking about earlier is that we're all finding ways to bring our purpose back to us and not waiting for someone else to give us the opportunity to express it, but giving ourselves the opportunity in all these different ways.
Yeah. This reminds me too of like just the idea of codependency in a relationship or in whatever your idea of your life is, when you put it all in this one centralized thing. I've done it in relationship. Like everything, all of my purpose was in showing up well to this relationship, or I need my acting career, and that's where I will get all of this stuff. When you actually like break apart a little bit and let life open up, like when my biggest relationship ended, like I actually got to see, oh wait, like love is here in my friendships. Love is here in my family. Love is here in my passion for this and how I show up in the world. Oh, when I've centralized it into this one thing, but actually it's spread out across my life, and the same with my purpose. If I can pursue the things that I want, but also like live it in all areas. Can I live who I am? It's just a better way to live. It's a stronger way to live. You're not codependent. You're in your power, actually. You are empowered that way. You're not dependent.
And it doesn't make the heartbreak any easier.
No.
Listen here. No, it doesn't. No, it does not. But,
no, I heard all the time.
All the time. But when the privilege of getting older and being around as long as we can be, is that time allows us to see that it's not ever just going to be heartbreak. You walking that journey with you after that, like you cracked open.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff needed to come out, but like you also softened in areas that you needed for yourself to soften.
Yeah.
And I remember hating seeing the pain that you were in, but you also had a playfulness come back to you that you had lost for a little while.
Yeah.
And you always bring out such a playfulness in me, like that. And I think part of it is because when we met, we were like we were tiny little
babies.
playful nuggets. So like that's our energetic set point is like when I see you, I'm like, it's Devon. Like we don't wrestle anymore, but we get to emotionally giggle and whatever.
Yeah.
But that like playfulness is something I think we all lose through phases in life, and then we get to come back to it if we want to or whatever. But you are by nature a playful human.
Very much
and it's
so.
what's so attractive about you. You have so much charisma and all of that stuff. But you would like and I didn't realize you had lost a little bit until after.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, here he
There's
is.
Devon.
There's the little playful.
I didn't realize I had lost it. Like I didn't realize.
Isn't that crazy?
I woke up to the fact that I had lost myself.
Yeah.
With the best of intentions.
Of
with
course.
the deepest love in my heart for this person and this relationship and this future I was building. I didn't realize that I had lost who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
And I think it happens to a lot of people.
Yes.
It was mind-blowing. It was so painful because I had become so codependent without realizing it that coming back to my independence came with a lot of shit, but it also came up with so much joy to go like, here I am.
Yep.
Here's my natural set point. I had moved so far away to meet this person who I loved. And thank God it went the way it did. Thank God it didn't work out the way it did. Thank God it hurt the way it did. Because now I won't do that for anybody.
Yeah.
I won't go off my center for fucking anybody. You'll meet me, like I'll meet you where you are, but in myself, and you'll meet me here, or we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Cause I'm not doing that shit ever again.
How do you really feel?
Yeah,
Devon?
goddamn.
But you
again.
also loved hard, and there was a beauty in seeing that too.
I
Because
loved
it wasn't
hard.
always that.
No,
it
no,
wasn't
it's
always
beautiful
bad.
for some of it.
For a lot of it, it was
for a lot
beautiful
of
to
it.
see you to put so much
fucking
in.
went in,
Yeah, you
man.
did. But I also think there is something so beautiful about your own realization of like, I didn't realize I had lost myself until after. How often do we not, relationship or not, career, doesn't matter. A lot of times you really don't realize, Lord knows I've had this where it's like, oh, all of a sudden you have that moment and it's either
like,
a heartbreak
oh,
or it's
shit.
whatever. And you're like, oh,
I don't want to be here. Like
I don't recognize this person.
Yes.
And it typically doesn't happen overnight. All of a sudden
No.
it's like, oh.
No, it's a lot of slow choices.
Absolutely.
Small choices.
100%.
And then all of a sudden you're gone.
And the power of going, you always have the ability to come back to that. And it might take you weeks, years, who knows, but like you can. And now you're just the coolest version of yourself you've ever been.
I agree. Thanks, Carlie. You
It's
too.
true. Thanks.
You too. Honestly, the 30s are tight.
Thank you. Can we make 30s cool?
30s are tight, man.
I know too many
Shit.
people who are freaked out about 30s. I'm like, bro, bye-bye 20s.
30s are tight. I love who I was in my 20s, but man, I'm way cooler now.
30s just feels good. It's like putting on a jacket that fits you like perfect, and you're like,
does.
Where has this been?
I love it. I loved this. Thank you
too.
for coming
you for having me on.
Let's see. Major takeaways. There's beauty in the pivot.
Yes. Ooh,
There's beauty in the pivot. Don't memeify your ideas about relationships or life.
Yes.
What else we got from this? I don't know. Follow your heart. Keep going. Keep going, guys. Keep coming back to yourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, this has been lovely. I love seeing you.
I love seeing you.
You know. And I look forward to meeting your baby.
Me too.
Shout out your screenwriting program, Blank Page Coaching.
On
Insta.
Yeah, I have a TikTok for it, but I'm still trying to figure TikTok out.
Okay. If anyone's passionate about screenwriting, check out Carlie's page, Blank Page Screenwriting. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's super fun. And then just like my regular, is that a thing? A regular handle?
Yeah.
Is Carlie M. Casey.
Cool.
And if you want to see the web series I did, it's Are You There, God? It's Me, Margot on YouTube.
Yeah, that's up.
There's a lot of curse words, though, I will say.
What the fuck?
I know, but
they're listening to me. What do you mean? It's fine.
I know, but like I had enough like older generation being like, it's so funny, a lot of curse words.
Well, dude, that's fine. My
but I'm like, have you met me? I think my first word might have been fuck.
That's what I mean. I'm like, it's fine. My mom, like, she was like, I listen to Growing Up sometime, and she's like, and I really like it. She's like, but on the Ned's pod, you guys talk about like poop a lot. Like, she's like, I don't like it. I don't get it. I'm like, Mom, it's gold.
You gotta
talk about talk
poop.
Is gold,
You
Mom.
gotta talk about poop sometimes.
It's not for your generation. It's
poop
for
happens.
my generation.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. Well, love you.
I love you.
See you soon.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. Cool.
Cool.